ASHA is amazing.
There are 1.1 million workers in the hotel and restaurant industry in the Philippines alone, 9.5 million in Europe, and 212 million in the United States. Vast investments have been made in construction of local assets in the country. Pagcor Entertainment City, Boracay Equestrian Club, Misibis Bay, Bellyaroca Resorts, and the Balasin Island Club in Quezon. And a noteworthy surge in foreign hotel ventures. Marriott Group of Hotels, Raffles and Fairmont Hotel, Holiday Inn, Ritz-Carlton, Movenpick Hotels, Discovery Primea, and recently, Marco Polo. This then positions hospitality as the world's fastest growing industry and an impending and stable means of moving up and forward both for the Philippines and the Filipinos. This sets the gauge of a feasible, impressive economic growth. The Asian School of Hospitality Arts, the only hotel school in the country, is tailored to fit the demands of the hospitality industry. It is strongly founded by its competent core courses: Bachelor of Science in Hotel and Restaurant Management, Bachelor of Science in Tourism, and Bachelor of Science in Entrepreneurship, and made stronger by its intricate and specific career-driven programs: Professional Cooking with Certificate in Hotel and Restaurant Operations, Barista with Certificate in Hotel and Restaurant Operations, Certificate in Professional Cooking Series, Diploma in Hospitality Management, Management in Accounting, and soon, Specialized Butler Service. Implementing a uniquely Filipino hospitality culture and teaching paradigm is ASHA's lifeblood, a faculty roster comprised of seasoned hoteliers and veterans who have had years of industry experience both here and abroad. ASHA prides itself with its Earn and Learn program, which holds a strong affinity between education and employment, making it possible to extend both quality education and a stable source of living across more than 7,100 islands. Wisely situated in various locations in the country, ASHA simulates and imparts actual training in hotel grounds. Further empowering the institution are its notable partners: TESDA, Commission on Higher Education; Tagaytay Highlands, Manila Ocean Park, Waterfront Manila Pavilion Hotel, Hotel H2O and Manila Oceanarium, the Island Cove Hotel and Leisure Park, Cravings, C2 Classic Cuisine, 7 Suites Hotel Observatory, the Orange Place Hotel, and the Center for Culinary Arts Manila. Over the years, ASHA has witnessed dreams being brought to life. Corinne Pastor and Joshua Delio are cooks at Ritz-Carlton, Florida, USA. John Jester Cruz, food and beverage staff at Royal Caribbean Cruise Liner. JZ Mendonez, bartender in Singapore. Jeff Patriarca, baker in Dubai. Over the years, ASHA has taken the Filipino dream to the world. The Asian School of Hospitality Arts, the home of the future global hospitality leaders.
Good evening mga estudyante. Welcome to another episode of ASHA E-Skwela. Brought to you by ASHA, Free Education Online. Ako nga pala si Dean Angie Blanco of ASHA, Asian School of Hospitality Arts in Antipolo. At today, tayo ay matututo ng magkasama. Ang ating episode today ay tungkol sa bartending. Ito ay continuation ng ating bartending module. So, ang topic natin ngayon ay all about beer. Welcome to ASHA E-Skwela. So tatalakayin niya, no? What is beer? Ano yung mga types of beer? Ano ba yung fermentation process? Paano ba ginagawa yung beer? No? Magmula umpisa hanggang na-process na siya, hanggang nasa bote na, hanggang iinumin na siya ng mga customer. Okay? Siguro pwede na natin anuhin yung PowerPoint para makapag-umpisa na tayo. Ayan, Sir Nelson. Welcome to ASHA E-Skwela.
Yes, good morning, good evening, students. Welcome to ASHA, Asian School of Hospitality and Arts. Hello.
Yes, sir. Naririnig namin kayo.
Opo, yung PowerPoint, man, okay na po ba? Hindi ko kasi nakikita yung PowerPoint, ma'am.
Okay. Ayan na.
Hello, hello. Yes, good morning again, students. Welcome to ASHA, Asian School of Hospitality Arts. Well, for tonight, our subject again is bartending, and the topic will be the continuation of our previous topics, which is the beverage classification. Last 3 weeks ago, we start this alcoholic beverages or the classification of beverage, the alcohol. We start with the wine, and for tonight, we will discuss about the beer. So, what will be our ILO or intended learning outcome? At the end of this session or episode, the participant should be able to know what is the meaning of beer or what is beer, define the components used in beer making, know the types of beer, learn how to storage the beer, and cleanliness of glassware, including the temperature of beers at the same time pouring of beer. And the last part will be the different parts or different kinds of beer around the world. And we have some videos included. Okay, to start with, I would like to give you first a little bit introduction about beer. So more of us or most of the Filipino people or people around the world, they like drinking beer because beer is available anytime. I mean, you can buy beer in any store near you. So mabibili natin ng store, we can grab the beer right away in the store. We can drink it even not so much cold, or some people are drinking beer kahit na room temperature siya. Actually, we have so different kinds of beers. Beers mostly drink cold, but there's a beer who prepared to be in a room temperature. Well, like in my hand this afternoon, we have this kind of beer. This is a beer from United States. This beer is a Bosch. So, so mostly beer is accompanied with food, or also considered beer is also considered as a food because the main ingredients of the beer is a grain or hops. So normally it has a protein and carbohydrates, and beer is mostly uh, accompany or match with the food or like snacks. So we can have like having a pizza or Pringles. So mostly sa atin, sa mga Pilipinos, we want to drink beer with some appetizers. So mostly they prepared food like meat or yung tinatawag nating snacks, Pringles, or any junk foods. So, in our topic, so we will discuss what are the benefits also of the beer. So, ano yung mga benefits na makukuha natin sa beer? So, ano yung chemical components na makukuha natin sa beer? Actually, they have a chemical components called dopamine. It's a chemical associated with experiencing pleasure. Kung baga, ito yung chemical components na makukuha natin. Kasi when we are drinking beer, they considered as we are relaxing or giving us a pleasure. So, may mga health benefits din na makukuha sa beer. So, gaya ng it can give us low or to lower our blood sugar control. It can also give us a stronger bones. And at the same time, it has a little benefits give us to our hearts because of these chemical components called dopamine. And all of that will be tackled later on as we continue to our topic for today. So that will be our little introduction for our beer classification, which is beer. So, by the way, my name is Nelson Navarro. I'll be your bartending trainer instructor for tonight. Mostly 18 years working on a cruise line for the ship Asia cruising industry. So I'm a bona fide member of the Philippine Bartenders League, the associations of all bartenders in the Philippines. At the same time, affiliated member of the International Bartenders Association or the IBA. So to start with, let's proceed to the definition of beer. Kung ano nga ba itong beer? Beer is a generic term for a fermented alcohol beverage that are brewed from malt or grains. So flavored with hops, and hops is the one who give bitterness flavor to the beer. So ang nagbibigay ng flavor or which call it the bitterness, yung pait sa beer, ay ang ingredients niyan ay tinatawag na hops. So there will be malt or grains as the basic ingredients in making beer. Okay, so around the world, actually, long time ago, the beer was originated or come from the Latin word "brie," meaning grain, or other Saxon word from Old English, the beer called beer as for the meaning of barley. Then other countries like German, they call beer. Scandinavian, they call beer. And for the English, they call BER, so beer. So ito yung alam natin na beer. So next will be the components used in beer making. So ano nga ba talaga yung five main ingredients sa paggawa ng beer? Ano yung bumubuo ng mga ingredients bago makagawa tayo ng beer? So let's start with this water. So the water, okay, the beer contains about 85%. Okay, 85% of the beer is water. Okay, it has a very big contribution when we're using beer, when we're using a good quality of water. Like for example, in the Scandinavian, they have a nice type of water with a lot of minerals. So a lot of minerals will contribute to the making of beer. So the number two will be the barley or the malt. So they call barley. Barley is a part of the family of grains. So when the barley is germinated or expand, like for example, they have a sprout o yung parang example yung munggo na naging toge, they called already malt. So that's the main ingredients in making for the process of beer. So they called barley and malt. So you can see in our illustration, for example, that's the perfect example of our barley or the malt. So as I mentioned earlier, the bitterness flavor. o nagbibigay ng pait sa beer, they call it hops. So hops are plants that especially grown in some other part of United States or Bohemian originally. Okay, this is a plant or a tree, and the hops are the flowers, as you can see in our illustration. The flowers have two kinds. The brewmaster is the one or the expert in brewing of beer. They will pick up only the female part or the female flower of the plant. So they are expert to pick it up which kind of flower of the hops will be specific to use in our brewing or making of beer. So the perfect sample, as you can see in our picture, is the flower they called hops. So this is the one who giving bitterness flavor to our beer. So next will be the yeast. As I mentioned in my previous topic, yeast is the microorganism that convert the sugar into alcohol. So ito yung yeast, siya yung nagko-convert ng sugar to make the yeast is responsible for converting the sugar into alcohol. So this is also a very important ingredients in making of beer. So actually there are two kinds of yeast when using to our fermentation. Okay, we will tackle later on as we discuss later about the types of beer. So actually, there are two kinds of yeast. So I will mention it later as we go on to the top fermentation and bottom fermentation of the beer. So after that, there will be the another ingredients, which is the sugar. So this is implemented to the beers like for the ales because they needed a certain amount of caramelization to make the beers adjust the color to make a little bit darker or uh, mellow. Okay, so the main ingredients are the hops, barley, yeast, sugar, and water. So that's the five main ingredients in making of beer. So now we will proceed now to the summary of brewing process. So paano nga ba ginagawa itong beer? So paano nagkakaroon ng alcohol? So let's start with the process called mashing. Okay? Mashing is in mashing procedure, they wash the malt, okay, which is the grains or the barley. It's already with the sprout. They mash it and wash it with hot water. So they added the enzyme. So the enzyme is the one who convert the starch into sugar. So after that, they filtered the liquid and and uh, and liquid is already called wort. So wort is the liquid that is extracted from the mashing process. So during the brewing of beer, so they put enzyme. Okay. So the next process will be the brewing. So in brewing process, it is put in a copper or a copper bat still or kettle. So the hops or the bitterness, the one who give bitterness flavor to the beer, during the brewing process, they put the hops. Okay. At the same time, they need to boil this wort or okay, this wort by around 2 to 2.5 hours to sterilize or to pasteurize, or meaning they cook it. Okay, so after brewing, the next process will be cooling or cooling down. It is placed in a cooling fermented vat. Okay, and at the same time, they already filtered the hops. Okay, they need to filter to eliminate the sediments. Okay, after cooling, okay, they will now make the process of fermenting. So they're gonna add the yeast. Either it is a bottom fermented beer or a top fermentation beer. Actually, bottom fermentation beer are those beer like lager, no? Lager, Bach, dark ale, and Pilsner. For the top fermentation beer, we have the famous ales and porters. So it stay for about 5 to 6 days fermentation for the ales and 8 to 11 days for the lager. So we will discuss it later as we proceed to our types of beer, wherein the fermentation classified in the bottom or top fermentation. Okay. The next process will be the maturing. In maturing process, the beer runs into the storage vat. Okay, as you can see into our illustration, that is the maturing vat. So the beer maturing or aging, okay? They age the beer. So when the beer is already matured, it becoming more mellower. Okay, it takes about 7 days for maturing the wine, at least 7 days. So the next will be filtering. So by filtering, it added by CO2. Okay. So the purpose of filtering is to guard all the sediments like the yeast. Okay. After that, they will make the carbonation or the CO2 added. Actually, there are two kinds of filtration. The most popular are the double pass uh, filtration, where it has consists of two process. The first one is the primary was the rough filtration, and there's another secondary they call the polish. So that's the way they do in the filtering process. And lastly is the packaging. In packaging, these were to package the beer into bottle or can or even into kegs. Okay. Bottles are washed. Okay, the process will be the bottle are washed with pure water. Then carbon dioxide is injected into empty bottles and cans. Then they are filled with beer. So lalagyan na ng beer yung cans or bottle. After filling it, the lids are placed on top by meaning of simmers or sealer. So that's the uh, summary how to make the beer. Okay. So now we will proceed to the types of the beer. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, there are two kinds of yeast, or there are two kinds of uh, beer. No, the types of beer are the bottom fermented beer and the top fermented beer. Okay, the perfect example of the bottom fermented beer are the lager. So actually, from the word bottom, they put the yeast at the bottom of the fermentation vat. During fermentation, they put the yeast at the bottom of the fermented tank. Okay. The kind of yeast they use is called Saccharomyces patronus, okay, which has a lower temperature and also uh, making sure that it has a breezing temperature or always having a cold always cold temperature, okay, to give up at least a good quality of lager beer. And the perfect example is the lager, like ito yung iniinom natin na mga famous beer like Heineken or the German beer like the Beck's. So what is lager? Okay, lager is originally a cellar for maturing beer. It is a light-bodied beer. As I mentioned to you, the perfect example are the Heineken or the Beck's. They are called lager. And that's another one, the Bach. Okay, this is a dark in colored and heavy bodied. So a little bit sweeter and rich flavor than the lager. Then another one is the dark beer. It is made from malt roasted to a darker color. Dark beer is not sweet as bat, but often being confused as a back beer. So that's another example of the bottom fermented beer. And the next one is the Pilsner. Okay, the Pilsner are the light-bodied and light-colored. Mostly these beers are the beer from Czechoslovakia. And another one is the Bavarian. They have also light-bodied. They use the Bavarian hops for making this kind of beer. So these have very distinctive character beer. So now we go to the top fermentation beer o ano naman yung mga beers na naka-classified sa top fermentation beer. Okay. Actually, they use the kind of yeast they use for top fermentation. They call the Saccharomyces cerevisiae. These need for a little bit warm in temperature when doing the fermentation. It has also high alcohol. So the yeast, they put the yeast, they call the Saccharomyces cerevisiae. So the yeast will be dormant or make slow down for a period of time. So unlike for the bottom fermentation beer, the yeast is always cycled inside the fermentation. But this kind, top fermentation, the fermentation stop in a certain period of time. So that's the difference between the top fermentation and the bottom fermentation of the beer. What are the perfect sample? The perfect sample of the top fermented beers, they called us the famous ales. So what are the ales? Ales are full-bodied and bitter than lagers. So ito yung mga beer na medyo darker. They are full-bodied. At the same time, they are a little bit bitter. So mostly popular are the English IPA, okay, the English beer or the Canadian beer. The next will be the porter. What is the porter? Porter is similar to ale, almost similar to ale, but it has a rich, heavy foam. It is also sweet than the stout. Okay, so they use the very pure malt when making this beer. Then the third will be the stout, or the perfect sample of the stout is the Guinness, the Irish beer. So the stout are dark ale, sweet with a very strong malt flavor. Okay, that's the example of our top fermented beers. Okay, next will be ito yung sasabi ko kanina, what will be the perfect match or between food and beer? Actually, beer is also was already considered as food because normally, because of the main ingredients, the barley, okay, it is a grains. So normally it has protein, and beer is a great match for food because of the complexity of its flavors, and also beer, its ability to provide refreshment and to interact with many kinds of food. So sabi ko nga kanina doon sa aking introduction, when we consuming beer or we drinking beer, normally we need to have appetizer. So it's like a perfect combination. If you're drinking a beer, it is always accompanied with some snacks or either appetizer, whether it is meat or fish, or because of its because beer is a refreshing a company, also good for pizza. Beer is an agricultural product, meaning considerable resources as grain, okay, part of the grain, and it composed of 85% of the beer are water. So beer is also considered as a food. So as we are Filipinos, we always drink with beer. At the same time, we call it appetizer, or we call it in our own word, pulutan. Okay. So next will be the storage of the beer. it is very important for us to know about the proper storage of the beer. Okay, the beer must be clean and dry. We're talking about the boxes. Okay, dampness can cause damage of the carton. Even the extreme cases, rust on the bottle caps. Okay, so we avoid to damage the carton by staying away in a wet area or yung ating mga cases ng beer. So let's avoid to have the connected to the water, make it dry. So it avoid to make a rust in our bottle caps. So also lights, okay? Yung mga ilaw is also can affect to the freshness of the beer. So it should be undesirable. It can affect to the undesirable taste and aroma of the beer. So it should be stored in a nice storage room. Should have natural sources of sunlight. Uh, Avoid connected to the sunlight, and it must be a room temperature. Okay. So for the temperature, okay, the beer should be stored in the refrigerator. So the certain temperature will be 2 Celsius to 3 Celsius. Okay. For the draft beer or the unpasteurized beer, it should be stored above 7 degrees Celsius. But in generalize, for serving the beer, it should be at least 4% to 7 4, 4 degrees Celsius to 7 degrees Celsius. Okay, but most of the European drinker or the European people drink beer a little bit warm. Okay, as I mentioned to you, like the IPA or the Indian Pale Ale. Uh, Most of the European beers are darker, so they prefer to drink a little bit warm. Okay, and but all like Americans, we need to serve the beer cold, no? But sometimes if we make the over much over cold or masyado malamig, sometimes the CO2 was sleeping that can cause look cloudy or flat. Or if the beer is a little bit warm or too much warmness, the beer will become wild or become more uh, uh, foam. Okay. So we discuss about the cleanliness of our glassware. It's very important also to observe the cleanliness of our glasses. So the glass must not be greasy. Okay, by proper washing, we can avoid the glass become greasy. Okay, dirty glass will make beer look flat. So when the glass is dirty, some guess that it may observe like it has a little bit flat. Okay, it will also affect the appearance or the flavor of the beer. The foam will not stay, and the bubbles streaking along inside the glass. Okay, it is important to have proper cleaning equipment on the bar and to use the right detergents and clean water. So normally, if we're using the glass wash machine, we have appropriate detergent or soap when using our or washing our glasses. So it's automatically uh, insert to the machine. Okay, that's the only tips when we're cleaning our glass, especially our beer glasses. But they said though, in serving of beer, it must be always use new glass at the same time. Chilled glass is also standard in serving beer. So most of the guests sometimes asking for chilled mags or a chilled pilsner to combine their beer. Some guests needed new glass for their new beer. Well, it depends, but most of my experiences, some guests are always prepared for or a new glass for their new beers. Well, it depends, as I mentioned, it depends on the guest. Just offer, sir, you want me to have another new glass for you, another cheap glass for you? If they said no, it's okay. But if they said yes, okay, you can still always serve the proper standard. Okay. Next will be the pouring of beer. Sir, in pouring of beer, beer must have a good head at the top of the glass. So normally, the palm is about 3/4 inch to 1 inch. Okay, as you can see into our illustration, it should be have always a palm. Okay, a head. Well, some European doesn't like to have a more palm to their beer. So some United States people or Americans, they like uh, opposite. Okay. Okay, when pouring the beer, okay, as you can see to our illustration, tilt the glass at an angle of 45 degrees and pour the beer until half filled and hold upright. So to avoid to create more bubbles, so we must tilt the glass into 45 degrees. So with almost half, it's about with almost half of the beer. So that's about time we can position the glass into normal position. Okay. As I mentioned a while ago, always use new glass for another glass of beer. So that will be the standard in serving and pouring of our beer. Okay, next. Okay. Uh, for the next illustration, we have these different kinds of beer around the world. So, so let's start with the Mexican beer. The first picture is the Corona. That's a Mexican beer. The next picture is the Peroni or the Italian beer. So the third picture was the Budweiser. It's a United States American beer. Molson, Canadian Molson is a Canadian beer. And we have this Japanese beer. For the Japanese beer, we have this mm, Asahi. For the Chinese beer, we have this Qingdao. For the Singapore beer, we have the Tiger. We have also Tiger beer in the Philippines, so that's the Singaporean beer. For the Belgium, they have the Blue Moon. So mostly they put a slice of orange to the beer or to the bottle. So Holland or the Dutch, they have the Heineken beer. For the German, they have the Beck's beer. So for the British, they have the Old Speckled Hen. And for the Australian, they have the famous Foster. So that's the different kinds of beer around the world. So for our next, we will show you the video for us additional information and added information. We will gonna play the video for the beers.
Beer is the third most popular drink on the planet after water and tea. Welcome back to All in 5 Minutes, and in this video I'll tell you more about this popular drink. Beer is one of the oldest drinks in the world, and its chemically confirmed history dates back to at least 5000 BC in modern-day Iran, although it was definitely consumed earlier than that. The beer was made from barley, and it was recorded in written history by ancient Egyptians and Mesopotamians. Later, beer spread through the Middle East to Europe, and it was spread by German and Celtic tribes around 3000 BC. It contained fruits, honey, and other plants and spices. In the Middle Ages, monks were known as great beer brewers, and almost every monastery contained a brewery. Beer was valued for its intoxicating properties, nutritional value, and because it was a safe alternative to drinking potentially contaminated water. Beer was brought to America with the first European settlers, and both New York and Philadelphia were early beer brewing centers. The process of making beer is called brewing. The primary ingredients of beer are water and a fermentable source of starch like malted barley, and it is usually fermented with a brewer's yeast and it is flavored with hops. Maize, rice, and sugar may be used as secondary ingredients. Brewing begins with malting, which is converting raw grain into malt. Mashing follows, which is mixing milled grain with water and other ingredients. Next comes lautering, which is separating the extracted liquid, also known as wort, from the grains. Then the wort is boiled in a large kettle, and afterward yeast is added to the wort and the fermentation begins. Next, the beer is conditioned, matured, or aged, which can take anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. Finally comes filtering, which stabilizes the flavor, and then packaging. Beer is categorized by the fermentation process that is used while brewing it. Beers are either lagers or ales. The beers that are brewed using the top fermentation are called ales. They tend to have a darker color, higher alcohol content, and stronger flavor, which is usually described as robust and fruity. Some of the subtypes of ales are porters, stouts, and many specialty beers. The beers that are brewed using the bottom fermentation are called lagers. Lagers go through an additional brewing step which is called treatment, and it gives them more clarity. Lagers can be pale, amber, or dark, and the taste is smooth, elegant, and clean. They also have higher sugar content. Some of the subtypes of lagers are pilsners, bocks, and doppelbocks. Beer is measured by its color, strength, and bitterness. The color is mainly determined by the malt, and it can range from light amber to almost black. The strength of a beer ranges from less than 3% to around 14% alcohol by volume. The alcohol content varies by the local practice and the beer variety. The bitterness is measured by the International Bitterness Units or IBU scale, and it depends on the duration the hops are boiled. The temperature of beer has an effect on its taste and the overall drinking experience. Cooler temperature beers are more refreshing, while warmer beers will reveal a variety of flavors. Usually, lagers are served chilled, low to medium strength ales are served cool, and stronger beers are served at room temperature. The pouring process also has an effect on the presentation. The flow rate, glass tilt, and position of the pour into the glass influence the properties such as the size and duration of the beer head, the pattern left by it, and the release of carbonation. A low level of beer intake has been found to have some positive effects on your health. Because of antioxidant properties, beer may protect against heart disease, strokes, and kidney stones, and it may also increase bone density and reduce bad cholesterol. Keep in mind that drinking too much beer will be harmful to your health, and it can lead to liver damage and other serious health problems. Which one is your favorite beer variety and why? Leave it in the comments below. There is still a lot to learn about beer. You can find out more about it from the playlist on your screen or in the description. If you would like to learn about something else in 5 minutes, you can follow this video YouTube suggests specifically for you.
Okay, sorry for that.
Yes.
So, thank you, Sir Nelson, for the very informative
Well,
sharing
welcome, ma'am. Thank you very much,
all
ma'am.
about
Yes.
all about beer,
Cheers.
no? Cheers. So yung
Yeah, okay.
ating San Miguel, anong klaseng San Miguel beer?
Pilsner po yun, ma'am. Bali, category siya sa ating bottom fermentation. Considered as lager.
Lager
Like
siya.
this one, American, yeah. Like this one, American beer named Bosch, no? So this is a lager beer. But still, drink moderate.
Drink moderately. Ayan, for relaxing, for
Yeah.
entertainment yung beer, no? So,
Yeah.
drink moderately. Pag nasobrahan ay masama. Pero kung konti lang,
Yeah.
pamparelax, di ba?
Yeah.
Pamparelax.
Always
Okay.
accompany with some appetizer or snacks. Okay.
O, potato chips, tapos mayroong pampulutan. Wow, sarap.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yan si Sir Nelson, isang batikang bartender sa cruise line. Kayo rin, ha? Pag-graduate nyo, pwede rin kayo mag-apply sa cruise line. Tutulungan natin kayo. So, just a reminder, ASHA offers SHRM and short certificate courses in bartending, food and beverage service, housekeeping, barista. Ayan yung mga short courses namin. All TESDA accredited. Yan. So, pag graduate nyo, tutulungan namin kayo mag-OJT, of course, OJT and restaurants, and then work na. Tulungan namin kayo magtrabaho. Okay. So, again, ako si Dean Angie Blanco. E-Skwela, tulong-tulong tayo para mapalawak ang ating kaalaman. See you next week for another episode. Very informative. And sa ASHA, may pag-ASHA. See you next week. Goodbye.